Hey everyone, welcome back. Today it's going to be another Tales from the Vault, the second worst feud in the United States. Who wants to hear the story of the second worst feud war in U.S. history between two families? That's what this story is about. It is about the Greene-Jones War of Hancock County in the late 1800s. There have been many different theories as to how this happened, but I have went back and done research. I have wrote down the stories that I have found. There is pages and pages of stuff that I found. And like I said, some of this, it's speculated many different reasons that this war started. But this war lasted 40 plus years. I don't know why it ended. I guess because some of them expired, some of them were convicted. I'm not sure, but I have, like I said, there's different articles in here that I'm going to read from and tell you what happened. Point of fact, I happen to be a descendant of one of the participants, Hampton Greene. Well, Hamp Greene. He happens to be my great-great-grandfather back. I don't know how many greats back, but I'm a descendant of him, as is many people in Hancock County. He and Link. So I'm going to get into this, and I'm going to tell you what I have found on this. I have heard this story for years and years and years. It has always held my fascination. And some of this stuff I didn't know until I researched it. So I'm going to be sharing with you what I have found. So this is from the Rogersville Review a couple years back. It's the Greene-Jones War. The Greene-Jones War in Hancock County was the second worst in U.S. history. The infamous Greene-Jones War occurred in Hancock County, Tennessee. There have been Joneses and Greenes living in Hancock County since before the Civil War. After the feud erupted, the Greene-Jones families hated and despised each other for the longest duration. But when the fighting stopped and the smoke cleared, both were left to count the fatalities and wounded, and no one knew what started it. That's when the truth became legend. One story says Asa Jones's boys had a hog that kept going through a fence and a hole in the fence and eventually ravaged Dick Greene's cornfield. It is speculated that it was his steal. Dick told Asa that he needed to fix the hole in the fence or face consequences. Well, this only angered Asa, who chose to ignore the threat. A few days later, Asa came over to the Greene place looking for his pig. But Dick Greene had disposed of it and stuffed it in the hole of the fence. When confronted by the angry Jones boys, Dick's reply was, "Asa, I told you to fix that fence, or you would be sorry. Now that pig won't tear up my corn no more." Others say the war started over an affair between the Jones boy and a married daughter of one of the Greenes. But most historians agree the real reason for the feud was an episode that happened in July 1863 during the Civil War. Alfred Greene, sometimes referred to as Alf, was hiding on Newman's Ridge to avoid conscription, which means compulsory enlistment for state service, typically into the armed forces. Conscription was extended to married men, so he was trying to avoid the draft. When he got word that his wife had given birth to a baby, so he made an attempt to see his wife and baby undetected. During the night, 4 Union soldiers from the Jones family opened fire on the Greene home. After hiding his wife and baby in the root cellar, Alfred grabbed his weapon and ran from the house to draw the Jones boys away from the home. Unfortunately, he was hit and expired before he reached the smokehouse. The red-stained nightshirt Greene was wearing and the weapon he was using is currently on display at the East Tennessee Historical Society Museum. The holes and red stains are still visible today. The unaliving of Alf Greene is considered by many to be the beginning of the Greene-Jones War, a red-stained feud that lasted nearly 40 years. One of the first newspaper accounts occurred in June 1887 when Thomas Greene used a weapon on Jeff Miner 25 times and fired into his head. Miner was a relative of Asa Jones' clan, miraculously survived his wounds. In April of 1884, the Greenes and Jones of Hancock County got into another fight on Sunday. Richard, Lincoln, Link, and Tom Greene were out overlooking their fields. They were fired on by an ambush party, supposed to be members of the Jones family. Richard had mortally wounded one of the Jones boys just a few months before. Tom and Link Greene were badly wounded, and Richard passed during the surprise attack. The next day, John Greene went over to Asa Jones' place to even the score. Standing behind a tree, he fired 30 rounds at the house. Asa returned fire, but no one was injured. On June the 2nd, 1888, 10 members of the Jones clan surrounded Hamp Greene's house, who is my ancestor, but was almost dawn before he realized he was under siege. They sent the women and children out of the house and the firing began. Over 300 rounds were fired between the two factions. Said 200, some say 3. One small boy was wounded and eventually passed. He had hidden under the bed for protection and was not found until the skirmish was over. The next day, Sheriff George Milburn and about 37 others went to arrest the Jones boys, but they had hidden in the ridges and hollows of the Clinch Mountains. On June the 9th, Dr. Yo from Mooresburg went over to the mountain to amputate the arm of one of the Greenes as the war continued. On the way back across the mountain, Dr. Yo found a man deceased on the side of the road, the man later identified as kinfolks of the Joneses. Afterwards, members of the Jones family threatened the life of Dr. Yo, and he left Hawkins County and was never seen again. After the unaliving of the small boy, this feud seems to have burned out, but at the end of the 1888, the Greene-Jones War was on again. Hamp Greene, who was on the Greene side, and James Greene, who was on the Jones side, got into a heated altercation at Levacy's store. James drew first and missed, then Hamp unalived James by firing upon him in the forehead. Then in May 1890, Asa Jones, the leader of the Jones side, was arrested and tried for the unaliving of Thomas Berry of Hawkins County. After a lengthy trial, Jones was cleared of the unaliving, but was charged with being implicated in the Greene-Jones trouble. The Greene-Jones War ended in the late 1890s. Some people said it was because the governor of Tennessee had threatened to declare martial law and send in the state militia. But hard feelings between the two families would last longer after the smoke cleared. It is estimated that 60 men and one small boy passed during the Greene-Jones War, the second worst feud in U.S. history. Now, I'm going to go on and read the rest of this. November the 6th, 1889. This is kind of a timeline that someone had written out. So this is what it says. November the 6th, 1889. Hamp Greene unalived his nephew, James Greene, another chapter in the Greene-Jones War. News reaches us of another unaliving in our neighbor county, Hancock, which occurred at Levacy's store. Wednesday morning, October the 30th. It appears that Hamp Greene belongs to the Greenes and James Greene to the Jones faction, which is having war with each other for some times, and that Hamp now had 2 sons in the penitentiary for unaliving the brother of James Greene in one of the battles, and that he is circulating a petition to the governor asking for a pardon of his sons and upon meeting James Greene on Wednesday morning at the above-named place, asked him to sign the petition. And upon refusal to do so, some hot words were passed. And it said, Hamp Greene do await upon James and threatened to strike him with it, when James drew his weapon and fired upon him. After several rounds, without effect, Hamp dropped the weight and drew his weapon and hit James squarely in the forehead, unaliving him instantly. Then walked leisurely to his home without any attempt being made to arrest him, and we understand is still at large. May the 21st, 1890. Asa Jones, the leader of the Jones side in the late Greene-Jones War in Hancock County, after scouting and evading the law for over 12 months, gave himself up last Thursday to Deputy Henry Davis of the 13th District of this county, and expressed himself ready for trial upon the charge of unaliving Thomas J. Berry of Hawkins County, which was preferred against him and conveyed him a prisoner of the Hancock County Jail, to await trial upon charges preferred upon him here. The unaliving of Berry referred to above took place in his meat house, smokehouse, when he was hit by someone hidden inside. He had gone out there with his son-in-law to set his milk higher as flood conditions had caused his milk to be ruined. September the 24th, 1890. The noted Asa Jones unaliving trial, after a continuance of 5 days, came to an end Tuesday with the verdict of acquittal by jury. Some of the ablest speeches listened to the courthouse for several years were made on both sides. Asa Jones will be taken to the Hancock County, Tennessee, where he stands charged with implicity in the Greene-Jones feud. But as we understand, a compromise has been effected in these cases. He will be permitted to give bond and thus be a free man once more. Stories of Lincoln Greene were that while he was a gentleman, people were afraid of him because he had notches on his weapon. During the Greene-Jones War, Lincoln dressed as a woman to pass through the Joneses to obtain supplies. Another cause of the initial ill will between the families may have been the teasing but insulting, ongoing jest carried out by the Jones boys against Susan Sookie Greene, wife of Hamp Greene. Referring to her nickname, they would call out, "Here, Sookie, here, Sookie, here, Sookie," as though calling a cow. It is said that when Alfred Greene passed, his brothers Robert and David, who were Union soldiers, came home after the war, unalived 2 of the men who were unalived Alfred, the third man suffering mentally from fear of his life. On the Greene side, Robert D. Greene, a Union soldier and son of Richard and Jane Trent Greene, was born in 1841 in Hawkins County and passed in 1905 in Sanger, Texas. He and his brother David were the ones to unalive 2 of the men who unalived their brother in 1863. Robert was county clerk of Hancock County, a deputy sheriff of Hancock County, and a wealthy farmer. According to Alton Greene, when the Greene-Jones War started in fall, Robert ordered so many weapons and ammo it had to be shipped by boxcar to Rogersville, Tennessee. Robert's oldest son, Orlando Landers Greene, was unalived in the line of duty while sheriff of Hancock County. Richard Dick Greene was born 1846 in Hancock County. He was called the meanest man in the county, but appeared not to bother anyone unless they messed with him first. He unalived Jim Jones, the son of Asa Jones, the leader of the Jones side, when Jones cursed him. James Pratt and Lewis Gilbert fought Richard Greene, Link Greene, and Thomas Greene, who were brothers. Thomas was wounded in one arm, which had to be amputated. Link Greene, 1860 to 1942, figured prominently in the war. He once dressed as a woman when the Greenes were out of ammo, and in disguise rode by the Jones crowd, got the needed ammo, and rode back. Later, he got religion, and a small group of his followers built a church for him. He dressed in the clothing of the biblical days. He made coffins for himself and his wife, and climbed into them to demonstrate they were the right size for his tall, thin body. the Joneses' side. The wives of Robert Greene and Asa Jones, the Jones leader, were related. Others involved. Jackson Greene, born 1846, was a Union soldier during the Civil War. He was a drummer boy for then Governor Brownlow. At one time, years later, William Ganaway Brownlow, the 17th governor of Tennessee, wrote and wanted to know what happened to little Jackson Greene. In May 1890, the Rogersville Herald reported the surrender of Asa Jones. This happened during the time of the Hatfield and McCoy feud. The one thing that distinguishes these feuds from each other was that the New York Times did not report on the Greene-Jones War as it had in the Hatfield and McCoy feud. Therefore, the Greene-Jones War went relatively unnoticed by the rest of the world. However, the New York Times reported in 1893 that Hiram Church of Hancock County, a bail bondsman for W.M. Hobbs, who had been under a $10,000 bond, went to Knoxville to buy handcuffs before leaving for Texas, where Hobbs had ran away and just been captured after escaping for 10 years sentence for the unaliving of Sheriff Greene. On November the 27th, 1902, Alexandria Gazette in Washington, D.C. reported that Richard Greene, the feudist who gained notoriety 12 years ago, committed a terrible tragedy, said to be in a maudlin condition, and after a brief altercation, fired on his wife and daughter, then himself through the heart, emptying his weapon. Sunday, June the 26th, 1887, Deputy Sheriff Lander Greene, son of Robert Greene, discovers William Hobbs at a church event at Stony Gap on the borders of Hawkins and Hancock County. Landers had a warrant for Hobbs' arrest, but Hobbs is carrying a weapon. Lander is hit and expires, but not before he returns fire and wounds his assailant. Hobbs lived. He was eventually arrested in Texas 6 years later. Friday, April the 20th, 1888, Asa Jones' house is destroyed by fire. The Jones ordered a large quantity of weapons, ammos, and prepared to retaliate against the Greenes. April the 24th, the Jones-Greenes feud still in progress. The house occupied by Old Man Jones, father of the boy unalived 2 months ago, was burned last night by the Greenes. May 1888. Several of the feudal participants on both sides are arrested and tried in Hancock County and indicted on felonious assault charges. Monday, May the 28th, 1888. After nearly 2 months of relative peace, there is another attack. Joel Greene and Harvey Farrell are traveling down Moore Creek when they come under fire by the Greene family members. Joel is a cousin to Richard, but sympathetic to the Joneses. He was hit in the arm and it had to be amputated. Saturday, June the 2nd. Hamp Greene's home is surrounded and attacked by a group of Jones men who fired over 200 rounds, this is the 200 to 300 rounds, into his home, wounded many, and unaliving his grandson, identified as Anderson Greene, who was hidden under the bed to stay with the men. October the 7th, 1942. Lincoln Greene, Link, the last of the feud's participants, passes and is buried. Link begged to be locked up at night for fear of his desire to unalive and tried to kill his family before unaliving himself. So, that is a piece of history of Hancock County, the second biggest feud in the U.S. history that occurred in Hancock County and lasted 40 years. Family members were with the opposite family. Some of the Greenes were with the Joneses. Some of the Joneses were with the Greenes. Like I said, there's been many, many theories as to why this started, from the pig to the name calling, to the affair, to the unaliving of someone. I'm sure some of these, all of these may have played into it, and one thing led to another. And I will post pictures of some of the participants of this, and that happened. Like I said, Hamp Greene happens to be my great, I don't know how far back, grandfather. So I will post his picture in this as well. So there you have it. The second worst feud in U.S. history. I hope you enjoyed this. Comment down below with what your opinions was of this. I know this was kind of scattered, but this is the things that I found and pieced together. Don't know why it didn't get better coverage than it did at the time. Probably because we were just a small community and didn't warrant a lot of attention then. The Hatfield-McCoy feud was going on at the same time, and that was a bigger, more notarized occurrence, so it got more attention. So comment down below with what your opinions of this is. Also, let me know if you want me to continue this series. I loved relaying history of where I come from and where I grew up. My next one is going to be about Mahala Mullins, the Queen of Moonshiners, that was infamous in the 1800s, the best moonshiner in the country. So that will be my next one. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you tune in next time. Let me know if you want me to continue this. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to hit that notification button, and to share this video. So until next time, and Tales from the Vault of Hancock County. Bye.